Death. It's the one thing every human fears. But what if the worst pain you could imagine wasn't the end, just the beginning? Around the world, across history, people have met their deaths in ways so horrifying, so unimaginable, they blur the line between nightmare and reality. Some were victims of accidents. Others suffered punishments so cruel they were designed to stretch agony to its breaking point. And some simply stared into the jaws of nature itself. Today we're counting down the 5 most excruciating ways to die. These aren't just ordinary deaths. These are endings so brutal, so drawn out, that even hearing about them might make your skin crawl. But here's the thing. You might think you know what's coming. Fire, torture, maybe wild animals. And yes, some of those make the list. But there are darker, stranger, and far more disturbing deaths that you've likely never even heard of. Ones that linger for days, even weeks, while the victim prays for an end that refuses to come. So here's the question. What's the very worst way to go? What method of death ranks as the ultimate human nightmare? Stay with me until the very end, because number 1 is so grotesque, so chilling, it was nearly erased from history. Let's begin. Coming in at number 5, being burned alive. Few things trigger primal terror quite like fire. It's beautiful, it's powerful, and in seconds it becomes a living nightmare. When someone is caught in a blaze, the pain is instant and all-consuming. Flames race up clothing, searing through fabric and skin, overwhelming every nerve ending in the body. At first, it's not just the heat, it's the shock. Your brain floods with adrenaline, trying desperately to escape. But there's nowhere to run when your body itself is the fuel. Historically, this wasn't just an accident. It was a punishment. In the Middle Ages, thousands were condemned to the stake. Witch trials, heresy convictions. People were tied up and set ablaze in front of entire towns. Eyewitnesses wrote of the screaming lasting longer than you'd ever want to imagine. But here's the truly horrifying part. Burning doesn't kill instantly. At first, the flames only char the skin. Then, as the heat deepens, pain receptors keep firing, and victims remain conscious even as layers of their body are destroyed. Eventually, one of two things happens. Either smoke and toxic fumes fill the lungs, causing suffocation, or the body finally reaches a point where nerves are burned away and the victim goes into shock. It's brutal, it's relentless, and yet it's only number 5. Because as terrifying as fire is, the agony doesn't last as long as some other methods on this list. The body either shuts down or mercifully loses the ability to feel. But if you think flames are the worst thing imaginable, wait until you see what nature has in store for number 4. Number 4, being eaten alive. There's a special kind of terror in knowing you're being hunted, not just to be killed, but to be consumed. Imagine this. You're dragged beneath the water by a crocodile, its jaws crushing your bones like twigs. You feel every tooth sink in as it spins, tearing away flesh. Or maybe it's a shark attack. Blinding panic, the shock of teeth ripping into you, the ocean turning red around you. This isn't just pain. It's a cocktail of pain, terror, and helplessness. History and nature are full of horrifying examples. Villagers in rural India speak of tigers that stalk silently for days before striking. People in remote parts of Africa have told stories of lions pulling victims from tents in the night. And let's not forget the ocean. Sailors who survive shipwrecks often face sharks circling for hours before attacking. The reason this ranks so high isn't just the sheer agony, it's that you stay conscious through much of it. The body doesn't instantly shut down. Victims feel everything. Flesh torn, bones crushed, organs punctured, all while fear floods the mind. And there's something worse. Some predators don't kill quickly. Crocodiles, for example, often hold prey underwater, waiting for the struggling to stop, not to end suffering, but to soften the meal. It's primal, it's raw, and it's the kind of death that triggers our deepest instincts for survival. But as horrific as this is, it's still not the worst, because there's a way to die that doesn't come from teeth or claws. It comes from inside your own body, and that's number 3. Number 3, radiation poisoning. Unlike fire or predators, radiation doesn't pounce. It doesn't roar. It doesn't even hurt at first. In fact, that's what makes it so insidious. You don't feel the damage until it's far too late. When someone is exposed to a massive dose of radiation, the destruction starts on a microscopic level. Invisible particles rip through the body, shredding DNA, obliterating cells, and quietly dismantling the systems that keep you alive. At first, it feels like the flu, nausea, weakness, maybe a fever. But then, the real nightmare begins. Your skin starts to blister and peel as if you've been burned from the inside out. Your hair falls away in clumps. Your mouth and throat erupt in ulcers so painful you can't swallow water. And the lining of your stomach literally begins to slowly deteriorate away. Survivors of Hiroshima, Chernobyl workers, even early scientists experimenting with radiation, they describe the agony as relentless. Every nerve feels raw, every inch of the body turning into an open wound. And the worst part? It doesn't kill you quickly. Victims can linger for days or even weeks, fully conscious as their body systematically collapses. Blood vessels burst, organs fail, and yet the mind often stays sharp enough to register every second of the torment. It's a slow, invisible execution. But as horrifying as radiation poisoning is, there's an ancient method of death that was designed, engineered, to keep its victims in agony for even longer. Number two is pure human cruelty. Number two, crucifixion. This wasn't just an execution, it was a message. The Romans perfected crucifixion not simply to kill, but to make the death itself an unending spectacle of agony. Victims were stripped, beaten, and forced to carry their own crossbeam to the site. By the time they arrived, their bodies were already battered and bleeding. Then came the nails, thick iron spikes driven through wrists and feet. Not enough to kill instantly, just enough to pin you in place. And then, the waiting began. Crucifixion wasn't quick. It could last for hours, even days. Every breath became a battle. Hanging by your arms crushes the chest, making it almost impossible to inhale. The only way to get air. Push up on the nailed feet, sending bolts of pain through the body, just to gasp before collapsing again. Over time, exhaustion takes over. The muscles cramp, the wounds tear wider, and the sun beats down. Flies swarm, birds circle. Victims begged for death, but it didn't come quickly. The Romans used crucifixion because it was psychological as much as physical. It humiliated. It broke spirits. It turned suffering into a public warning. And yet, as excruciating as it was, crucifixion has one thing that our number one entry does not. It eventually ends. Because what comes next wasn't meant to kill quickly. It wasn't even meant to kill cleanly. Number one is a method of death so cruel, so drawn out, it almost sounds like legend, but it was very, very real. Number one, Scaffism. Even the word sounds strange, almost harmless. But what the ancient Persians created under that name is arguably the most horrific way any human has ever died. Here's how it worked. The victim was stripped naked and wedged tightly between two hollowed-out wooden boats, or sometimes between two tree trunks lashed together. Only their head, hands, and feet were left exposed. They were trapped, completely helpless. Then came the feeding. They were force-fed milk and honey until they were bloated, sick, and couldn't hold any more. The excess caused violent diarrhea, coating their own body. Their exposed skin was smeared with even more honey to attract insects. And then, they were left. Bugs swarmed almost instantly. Flies, wasps, ants, biting, stinging, and crawling into every opening they could find. Mosquitoes fed on their blood. Maggots burrowed into open sores. Days passed. The sun baked them alive by day. The cold gnawed at them by night. They couldn't move. They couldn't fight. They couldn't even swat away the insects that slowly ate them alive from the outside in. Historical accounts say some victims survived like this for over a week, fully conscious, while their flesh rotted and was consumed inch by inch. This wasn't just death. It was the deliberate stretching of death, turning life itself into a prison of unthinkable pain. Scaffism was so vile, so grotesque, that it was erased from most records. But whispers of it remained, a reminder of how far cruelty can go when humans decide pain isn't just the punishment, but the point. And there you have it, 5 of the most excruciating ways a human being can die. From the searing agony of fire, to the invisible torture of radiation, to the forgotten nightmare of scaphism, each of these deaths is more than just an ending. They are ordeals, drawn out, merciless, and almost too horrific to comprehend. But now you know. Here's the question. Which one do you think is the worst? Or is there an even more terrifying way to die that didn't make this list? Tell me in the comments, if you dare. If you made it this far, you're clearly not afraid of the dark side of history. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because next time, we'll dive into something just as chilling, the strangest survival stories ever recorded. Until then, stay safe and be grateful for every single breath you take.